Hello and welcome to my staircase. First things first, I'm gonna put this hat on because my hair, well, it looks like I just woke up because I did. So we're just gonna put this little hat on to keep things professional. What we're here to talk about is this Blade Pro, but I'm gonna slowly bring it into frame because you might be unprepared to see that this racket it's a product called Retenser. And the way it's gonna work is at the bottom here, you have these openings where you can stick this pin in, or key, whatever you wanna call it, and twist this, right? I won't do it in the picture, but you can yank this down essentially, and you can increase the tension on the mains. On-the-fly tension adjustment, that is what Retenser is offering. I actually don't think it looks that weird. This is an 8 throat hole racket. This is the Blade Pro 16 by 19. If you have 8 throat holes, the Retenser product is only designed to give you tension control over the 4 center mains. If you have a 6-hole racket, it will give you control over 6 mains. So ironically, if you have less throat holes, you'll actually have more tension control because it will span across 6 holes as opposed to just 4 holes. Now, I think the reason is this product definitely has a little bit of bulk to it. I think if it moves any closer to these sides, you literally won't be able to get the pin in and twist it as far as you need to, or maybe you won't even be able to get this thing all the way to the corner. I don't know, but it kind of makes sense to me. What if you have that Wilson shift with 10 throat holes? Retenser, you wanna let me know? Since this only gives you tension control on the mains, I was like, is it weird to only increase tension on the mains? Yes, the average tension of the string bed would increase, but ultimately you're only controlling the tension on the mains. And not only is it only the mains, it's only the center 4 or 6 mains, depending on how many throat holes you have. I think if you hit a few balls after adjusting the tension that is applied only to the mains will kind of distribute across the rest of the mains. And that made me feel a little bit better. I'll show you a little bit more about this product close up soon, but let's mix in some playtest footage. I think that would be the next best thing to do. Maybe I'll still be wearing this. All right, we're out here on the courts. Got the Retenser and Blade Pro 1619. As you can see, is the case here? Yeah, there you go, evidence. And we have Restring 0 with sync in the crosses, Zinc, one of my favorite hybrids of all time, and the Titan machine set up. Very slow pace, kind of a windy day, but I think I'll be able to tell how things are going. It's currently on the lowest tension setting, but I will increase it soon. Just getting used to the racket here. I don't hit with the Blade Pro, I hit with Pro Kennex, so. Working on those lefty forehands. Wearing sandals. Taking this really seriously. I just love me a windy day. Well, here's what I'm gonna do. I got used to it at this tension. Just keep in mind that pitch right there. Gonna take this Retenser key, which goes in right here, and I'm gonna turn it up 1 notch. Just like that, it clicked into place. I'm gonna do that on both sides. There you go. How's that sound now? Oh yeah, a little bit higher for sure, and I actually think I feel that. And you know what, just to prove that the strings moved, if you can see there's a little bit of a smiley face going on here. But just for the sake of making things obvious, and I think it's important for myself that I do that, I'm gonna turn the tension all the way up. So let's turn that all the way. Decently hard to do that, but honestly not too hard. You can see a little bit more of that smiley face pattern here, surely from the mains just being pulled down. And I might just kind of even that out real quick. Not just for OCD reasons, but for, I guess I wanna see if the opposite happens when I put the tension back down, which we will do in a minute here. All right, let's see if I feel a difference. I bet I do. Oh, yeah. Huh. I feel like immediately a lower launch angle. There we go, I'm kind of calibrating my shot. Huh, well, it definitely sounds a little bit stiffer just from the pitch. I remember the pitch from the last few shots. This wind is honestly pretty ridiculous. Well, let me say this. It's hard to tell a few pounds difference when you're comparing the same racket side to side from what you remember a few minutes ago. But it does feel a little firmer. It's a very windy day, so it's hard to actually read the ball. The balls are maybe falling a little bit shorter when the tension's higher. But the pitch is higher, the string bed feels a little bit stiffer. I'm sure that the tension actually is increased by a few pounds. Yeah, it's pretty cool to be able to adjust that on the fly, honestly. So what I'm gonna do is just mess around on my own time. I don't know if I feel like filming this because the wind is just awful. Maybe I'll work in some playtest footage with some other people. How's that sound? Hopefully on a less windy day or time of day. All right, I'm hitting with a real person, and we have Retenser at the highest setting right now. So I'll start with that and work our way down. All right, I'm gonna dial this down to the lowest setting. Just like that, 1, 2 clicks. Same for this side. There we go. And you can see a slight smiley face up this time. And it sounds a little lower. I feel a little difference. It's not like night and day, but it's subtle. Just feels a little softer. And I suppose you'd get a little more free power. It's hard to like know for sure, but that would be the intuitive side effect. All right, I'm gonna dial the tension back up and see if I feel the difference. Back to the highest tension. Okay. Oh, yeah, I feel that. Ah. Right?
Just the string bend, like, feels softer.
Definitely. Oh my gosh, sorry. Elbow down.
Oh, sorry. Maybe like this. No, it would help if I was hitting. Oh, nice. Oh, sorry. No.
All right, Gerardo, right?
Yes.
Right on, cool. Met you at the tournament. We watched Carew play.
Yeah.
And you're checking out this Retenser. What'd you think? So you started with it at high tension and then we adjusted it to low tension.
Way more different than I thought it would be. Higher tension, feels way stiffer, way less pocketing. And when I loosened it, immediately more pocketing, softer, probably get more touch. But in terms of like my normal ground strokes, I can't tell that I was making me more or less controlled.
I'd say the same thing. I felt it more in the string bed than I did necessarily in my shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I'm sure it actually made a difference.
Probably, right? Yeah. I mean, when you switched it, at least for me, I felt like the ball went from landing on like the last third of the court when it was tighter, and then when you switch it to looser, it did feel like it was landing maybe 2 to 3 feet deeper on average. But that's about it. I mean, I think spin and speed was about the same, just deeper on the court.
Awesome. Appreciate your opinion. Thank you. Does this product work? Absolutely. It definitely does what it's advertised to do. You can quickly and simply adjust tension on the fly. And the effects are kind of as you would assume. The string bed stiffness, you will probably notice the difference, and how that affects your shots is pretty obvious. Higher tension, maybe less power, more control, etc. I don't need to go into the whole spiel about how tension affects things like power and control, right? You guys know that. And so this product is allowing you a way to quickly tap into those differences on the fly without having to adjust tension or restring your racket or grab another racket right then and there. You can adjust that. Some cool use cases that maybe aren't as talked about. Maybe your string bed is kind of old and the strings are losing tension. This could be a cool way to offset that. Maybe even though your strings are aging, you can kind of maintain the original tension of the racket more by adjusting this dial like every week or two or something. You know, really depends on how often you're hitting or whatnot. Another interesting use case could be that you're stringing a new racket, or maybe you're using some new strings and you don't know exactly what tension to start with. You could tweak that a little bit. Maybe you string this at, I don't know, 52 pounds, and for some reason it feels too low. You could increase the tension a few pounds on the fly, and then for future reference, you would know, I'm gonna string this racket a few pounds higher. That way you don't have to waste a string job getting to know the racket, and you can dial in the tension even after you've strung it. So that's an interesting use case that I definitely think has some merit. Maybe this is for people who want to tweak their game on the fly, or potentially use it for the use cases I just listed. Let me throw in a few more use cases. I spoke with the company and there are definitely a few things I didn't consider that I also think have merit. You know how tour players often have like 6 or 8 or maybe 12 rackets? A lot of the times a few of those rackets are a couple pounds higher or a couple pounds lower, and that's really just to help adjust to conditions. And the conditions could be anything from like wind or humidity or temperature, elevation, or maybe something like dealing with a huge server. So maybe you just want to be able to block returns, and a couple pounds more on your string bed will help to ensure that your ball doesn't fly too far. My whole point here is that being able to adjust the tension does help you adapt to conditions, but maybe you don't need to have 12 rackets to do it if you have Retenser. And the other cool thing about having Retenser in your racket, you can literally play with the exact racket with the same strings and grip and everything, because every racket is a little different even if you get it matched. You can keep the exact same racket and adjust tension to help adapt to conditions. So maybe you can adapt without having to have 12 rackets if you're a tournament player, but maybe you also appreciate being able to adapt without having to change rackets. And I wanted to make sure I got that point in this video because I do think that carries some weight. All right. Back to the final points. Last thing I'll say is compatibility. So the Blade Pro does have small grommets. However, the Pro Canex here has even smaller grommets. And I actually found that when trying to install this on the Pro Canex, which is what I wanted to do since this is my racket of choice here, the grommets here are actually too small. Retenser offers these little pin grommets to replace the throat grommets. And while the Blade Pro does use small grommets, many rackets are actually larger than this one. So I think the odds of you having a racket with grommet holes that are too small, very unlikely. I do think that most, if not all of the Pro Canexes will actually have that issue, but I don't think rackets like the Gravities or the Babolat Pure Strikes or the Pure Aero 98s, or really any of the mainstream popular rackets out there are gonna have that issue. Sometimes you can run this Retenser product on top of the bridge or throat grommet, and that way you can bypass the need to use these little throat pins. But that isn't always the case. It really depends on how far the throat grommets are sticking out from the racket. If it's really flush, maybe you can. If it sticks out like it does on the Pro Canex, can't do it. So there's really no way for me to work around the small holes here. So that's really gonna depend on your racket. I'll have to leave that for you to decide if it's compatible or not. It would be nice if Retenser had like a list of rackets where you could just know, but there are so many rackets out there, it's hard to say, and it's hard to make a list like that, and there's always new rackets coming out. I don't think you'll have an issue. But if you have a micrometer, I actually sent these measurements to Retenser to prove to them that it wasn't fitting on my Pro Canex. Let's see, the outer diameter of these individual grommet pins are 3.53 millimeters, all right? So if your grommet hole is at least 3.53 millimeters in diameter, I think you'll be fine. You could probably even go slightly smaller and still squeeze these in there, but you can measure your throat grommet outer diameter right now, and based on that number, tell if this product is gonna be compatible or not. I also have a Pure Aero VS. It's my only other racket that I own right now, besides the Sabre. And that uses spin grommets, and I don't think there was a way to bypass that either. Those super oval grommets, I can't put these pins in there because they literally are way too small and the wrong shape. Anyway, these throat grommets are 2.9. So over 0.5 millimeter smaller, which is actually too big of a difference. And Retenser didn't see that one coming, did they? Because who's thinking about ProCanX rackets these days? Which is a shame because ProCanX rackets are genuinely amazing. I think they offer the best technology, so much feel, and I'm getting crazy spin with this racket. So I'm very, very happy that I went against the grain and bothered to test this racket because I really, really love it. And I'll be saying more on this, stay tuned. A lot of questions have come up about this racket. I will answer them in a future video. So I hope I have answered some questions regarding Retenser and helped you decide whether or not this product is for you, or maybe you're just curious about it and wanted to learn more about it. Very cool, either way. If you guys want to support the channel, you can grab me a coffee, direct donations, get you a shout out in a future video. And the last person to shout me out was Legal Eagle, which is still crazy to me. Bought me 10 coffees. Appreciate you. Big YouTube channel. He has like 3.3 million subscribers. It's wild. If you want to see that video, I'll link that just in case you don't believe me. But you can also support the channel by using my affiliate codes to get my favorite strings. In this racket, we have Restring 0, 17 gauge, with 18 gauge sync in the crosses. Both are by Restring. Amazing tension hold, really good feel, especially with this combination. Sync in the crosses. If you haven't tried sync, but you've tried 0 and you didn't love 0, highly recommend sync. It's such a good cross string. So, so, so good. And you can get 10% off with my code. I also really love Toro Line. You can get 20% off with my code. And they have many strings I like just as much as Restring 0 and sync. If you want to get 15% off of a racket, go to Direct Tennis, use my code. That is for the mobile app only on Apple phones. But later, Android will be a thing, or maybe a website. But yeah, enjoy 15% off of a racket. That's a crazy discount. Use my code here. And link for the app is down below. And links for plenty of other products that I think are amazing are also down below, including Diadem shoes, Frank Works shoes. And I'll be doing more content on those as well, so you guys understand why those products are so good. But I only work with the best, just to be clear. I'm very picky. So if you want to support the channel, check those links out. I appreciate you guys watching. And link for this will obviously be in the description, and I will see you guys in a future video. Thank you so much. All right, bye for now.